Hello and welcome to the magical world of Monterey Pop. I know what you're thinking. Hey there, strange voice. What in tarnation is Monterey Pop? Well, children, Monterey Pop was planned over a 7-month period when hippie friends Lou Adler, John Phillips, Alan Parser, and Derek Taylor decided to have a rock show to supplement the success of the Monterey Folk and Jazz Festivals had down at the old fairgrounds. So they called up all their other hippie friends and asked them all if they wouldn't mind playing for free at their little fiesta. Most of them agreed, except Ravi Shankar, who wanted $3,000 to play his fancy banjo. Whatever. Now, despite the hasty planning, these guys really did a thorough job of setting this whole shindig up. They had freak-out tents for people who OD'd on drugs over the course of the festival to go chill out with all the other drug peeps, as well as security that utilized the local police force. This all was pretty much a dream come true for the mostly white audience. This whole big thing cast off the dock on June 16th with Eric Burdon and the Animals. No, not Eric Burdon playing a show with a bunch of lions, but a band called the Animals. Lions, animals. Now, these boys started out as a gritty-sounding blues piece across the pond in jolly old England, but had recently moved westward to get all weird with San Franciscans. They started to get heavier tones and psychedelic-type influences, and Eric Burdon fell into a habit of screaming and yelling on stage. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you had Simon and Garfunkel, a couple of buds who made big on folking it up on the big wood. They played folk, and they played it well. Hippies loved them. Kicking things off the next day, on June 17th, was Big Brother and the Holding Company, an already well-established San Francisco group. As many know, this group was fronted by a chick named Janis Joplin, who made the hippies absolutely freak out. She was really, really good. Later that day, you had a conglomerate known as Country Joe and the Fish. However, they accepted $5,000 for this whole documentary thing they were doing, which kind of annoys me, so we won't talk about them. A big group that showed a lot of promise this day was the Steve Miller Band. Despite not actually having released a full-length album, they had a pretty successful gig. Personally, I enjoy the song Fly Like an Eagle, although that didn't really come out when they played, so really, no one really knew about it. So if I had a time machine, I could go back and I could write that song. That could be bigger than Steve Miller. Just think about it. June 17th also saw an appearance from the Byrds. Not like a Steve Miller bird, but the jangly 12-string kind of bird. These birds were inspired by the Beatles. If you learn nothing from Monterey, learn that it was basically a zoo. I mean, there are animals everywhere, including Eric Burdon's animals. It was insane. Closing out the day was none other than Otis Redding, the king of soul himself. When he came on stage, all the white folk were like, huh? But he soon educated all of the people on the real soul deal coming from Stax, which was pretty cool. Bright and early on June 18th, greedy moneymaker Ravi Shankar hit the crowd with his identical cousin Cheech Marin, who showed up to get in on some of that Monterey Kush. Now, Ravi was from the Far East, and he played a sitar, which is basically an Indian banjo. Hippies dug the new sound, so much that it became a part of the psychedelic musical movement, and the white people smiled. That night, the true climax of the festival took place. The Who, the near-legendary mod group from England, jumped on stage. They played some neato songs, and then proceeded to break everything. Keith Moon and Pete Townsend were all like, "Ah!" And the hippies were all freaking out and giving them the old Olive Eater salute. Life was good. As the crew was cleaning up the mess the Who had made, the Grateful Dead, led by renowned hippie Jerry Garcia, took the stage. They played some crunchy grooves, and everyone was pretty happy. Finally, the new kid hit the stage. Jimi Hendrix, a huge act in England, had yet to make an impact in his own country. Needing to upstage the Who had, as you recall, a really sick set, he walked up there with a load of amps, played some crazy songs, and then the original, he set his guitar on fire. Everyone was like, OMG, thumbs up, because everyone knows fire equals major thumbs up. He then smashed his stuff like the Who did, and everyone was like, I dig this guy. Monterey was not all about the music, though. It was an accurate portrait of the counterculture in this time. We saw mainstream use of recreational drugs and the hilarious things those people said. We saw the birth of the rock festival, which inspired Woodstock 2 years later. And we saw a lot of acts immediately get popular and make mad money. Not to mention, the original movie made about this was way awesome. Hopefully you learned a lot about this wonderful thing known as Monterey Pop. Stay tuned for the Jonas Brothers in concert. This is Nick Reynolds, wishing you a lovely tomorrow.